Hey everybody, and welcome back to Dude's Brunch, your late night morning talk show. I'm your host, Taylor Olmstead. With me this week to talk about Get Out and also breakfast food, it's Tyler Reed. Tyler, what did you have for brunch today?
Hey everybody. This week I played Twilight Imperium with a few friends, and so we had an early morning where we kind of just had like a pastry and some coffee, and then we sat literally in chairs for like 8 hours playing a board game. So then we had homemade pizza. So that I guess it's also kind of brunch too, but it was more like dinner.
Like brunch, but also like dinner. I don't think that's how brunch works.
You're right.
But it's okay.
You just called it dinner.
It's
That's
okay
fine.
because Sean also doesn't know how brunch works. Sean, what did you have today?
Today I had 2 blueberry muffins.
2 blueberry muffins, Mr. Big Spender.
No, I homemade them out of a little mix.
Oh. Well,
But
that
yesterday
sounds
we did go to
lovely
the
and
coffee
domestic.
shop and I did have my regular cinnamon and blueberry muffin with a medium roast coffee.
Sounds delicious.
It was delicious. It's growing to be my favorite place to go on a morning coffee date.
There's nothing like having a good local coffee shop to support. Hashtag Punkland. Well, I'm your host, Taylor, and for brunch this morning, I had some coffee and homemade breakfast burritos. Fried up some onions and made some eggs and some salsa and some cheese. And yeah, I was just feeling something a little out of the box today. It was nice. So let's get into some follow-up. Speaking of Punkland, this week, as we record, is the Atlanta Film Festival. So I have been seeing lots of locally produced and other independent movies. Just wanted to give a couple of quick recommendations on that the rest of the panel can't contribute to because they're not in Atlanta. But Dave Made a Maze is a really fun, kind of surreal comedy about a guy who gets lost in a cardboard maze in his living room. It's got one of the dudes from OK Go in it and a couple of other actors that have been on shows like Difficult People and a couple other like Hulu and Netflix comedies. So if it shows up on Netflix in the next couple of months, definitely check out Dave Made a Maze. Also watched the pilot for a series that's going to be on Hulu later this year called The Benefits of Gusbandry, which is all about straight women and their gay husbands. Pretty hilarious, so be watching out for that on Hulu. I think it was produced in Portland. I think the other one was shot here in Atlanta. But either way, both excellent. Definitely check that out. What other follow-up do we have this week, guys?
I saw somebody buying a Lisa Frank set the other day when I was at the store. This girl comes running up to tell her mom. She's like, Mom, I want to color this. And it was a Lisa Frank coloring set.
I'm glad to know that Lisa's still doing well and that the children still love her.
Oh, she is. She's thriving in Marshalls right now. I got new pants, too.
Riveting, Sean. Riveting.
Good story.
Gonna put it right over here in the story basket.
Gonna put this right up here, Ringo.
Are we following up on Power Rangers or not?
Did you see it?
I did.
Did you like it?
Did you see it, Taylor?
I did not know.
Great. So no one's seen it. So I made a joke post on the subreddit called "About to watch a new Power Rangers movie. Ask me anything." And so a little bit of ways into the movie, I had to go to the bathroom break. And in that time span, wow, words, I heard a 21 Pilot song and a White Stripes song. And then pretty much after that, there was no other, like, branded songs. And then, like, about an hour and a half into probably the movie, they still weren't in power suits yet, but they had met Alpha and Zordon. So that being said, it was a really great teen drama movie, but it had so much not to do with Power Rangers that I could barely even call it a Power Rangers movie. It's like the last, like, 30 minutes, they're like, fuck, this is a Power Rangers movie. We have to kill them with the swords. Get in there.
So what you're saying is this is another fucking origin story movie?
I mean, now that being said, if it is, the next one is probably going to be good because they spent the entire fucking movie character developing. And you're like, wow, I love these teens with attitude. You're like, wow. I feel like the people acted very well. I thought they chose good people with good looks. Like they had like a good vibe. I think they all gelled well together. They all had different sort of like shapes and personalities and styles. I think that if they keep making movies, they're going to be great. But this movie was just not Power Rangers. And the Zord is just, they're like, oops, he's a sexy man now. He's not like the robots coming together. He's just like, whoops, all people. And I don't know. It's just like, and the mastodon. No, we all know now. We all know what a mastodon looks like, right? It's a giant sort of elephant that has lots of hair.
I thought it was a metal band from the mid 2000s.
Also, that they still make albums that has 4 legs and it's got a big trunk. And it's got tusks. Now, this one had 8 legs and looked nothing like an elephant. It almost like the beetle. Looked like a beetle. And I was like, what is this? What is this abomination?
Did they say on screen that it was a mastodon?
I mean, they didn't say it.
So maybe it's not supposed to be a mastodon.
Well, they called it in the merchandise and stuff. And they said in like an interview, they're like, "Oh, we wanted it to be a quick and agile creature, and we thought it having more legs would make it more capable of doing that." It was sort of like a practicality because they're like aliens or something. And spoiler alert. I'm like, that's not how.
Did you?
Not what a mastodon's for.
So did you like the movie? Because I kind of get a feeling that you were like, yeah, no.
Okay, if you ignore the fact that it's called the Power Rangers, great. It was pretty. It was pretty good. It was pretty all right. It was fine. It was a fine movie. Someone called it inessential, and that's about right. It's not a movie you need to see, but it's not bad. But as a Power Rangers movie, goddamn, it was hot fucking garbage. It was like one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
So what if it wasn't called Power Rangers? What if it was called another title and they just Super
Teens? You're like, great. Super Teens with Robots, the movie. Like, all right. The movie I would have wanted was not what I got. I wanted practical effects. I wanted lots of flashiness, lots of transformations, lots of memorable characters, and
that's what I heard that it had. That it kind of like, I heard that it was a mix of like, okay, so it's definitely a new version of rethink of the Power Rangers, but they still kind of harken back a little bit to the Saturday morning drama where there's like flash pots and there is some like kooky sound effects every once in a while. But by and large, it's okay. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe I feel lied to.
I would say it was not goofy in the slightest.
So
I mean, there's like, it's like goofy, like ooh, like Transformers, like kind of like.
That's the new Googler sound.
All right, Tyler. So let's really like put this movie on the scale here. Is it a see in theaters or watch on Netflix or don't watch at all movie?
It's a rent it from a Redbox or a Netflix, if those Redboxes even exist.
Surprisingly, yes, they still do.
I think it's a Saturday where you got nothing going on and you wanna have a fucking giggle.
Fair enough. In some other follow-up, want to do a quick Apple segment. Just a quick one, because a lot of times when we talk about Apple, it takes for fucking ever, and this one's going to be super quick. So here we go. Apple basically did 3, maybe 4 things that matter to this podcast this week, and so we're going to run through them real fast. Thing number 1, red iPhone. How do we feel about the red iPhone?
They put a white screen on it. It's stupid.
I agree wholeheartedly. Why does the red iPhone have a white front? Best snarky tweet about this? Someone said, "Oh God, the red iPhone has a white front. Someone call Bono and make sure he's okay." And then somebody actually took a picture of Bono holding one, and I was like, you would think that Bono would have made this black. But anyway. Thing number 2, there's a new iPad. It's just called iPad. Not the new iPad, not iPad Generation 5, just iPad. It costs less than the iPad Air 2 that it's replacing, and it's marginally more powerful. I think it's mostly meant for schools. I'm not that interested in this. Do you guys care?
Wait, hold on.
I mean,
so it's just it's a $329 one, right?
Yeah, it's the new $329 iPad as opposed to it went down from $350. Sorry.
So it's $30 less.
It's $30 less, yeah.
The new iPad.
And what does it do? What's it smaller or what?
So it's the same. It's the traditional iPad size, but it's not as powerful as an iPad Pro, and so that's no longer called. It would have been called the iPad Air 3 or iPad 5th generation, but instead it's just called iPad.
So basically, this is it. This is like
you either have an iPad Mini, or an iPad Pro now. Yeah.
Okay.
I think branding-wise, it makes sense. There are 3 kinds of iPads now, and the Pro comes in 2 different sizes. All in all, it's just a tiny little boost to the iPad. I don't really care that much.
So basically 2 years ago, when we were all saying, oh my God, the MacBook's going out. No one's going to buy this stupid thing anymore. It's just going to be an iPad Pro.
Nobody's going to buy the regular iPad now. Yeah,
this is the first thing. Okay, so most of us are going to get an iPad for Christmas, and we're going to be like, oh wow, this is just a Kindle.
I mean, it's a little bit better than a Kindle, but yeah, I mean, it's just another iPad. Like,
what's the price difference between an iPad Pro 9.7 iPad?
It's so confusing, right?
What is the difference between the iPad and this new iPad Pro thingy?
Well, it's better than the new Nintendo 3DS XL.
That is pretty bad branding as well.
Please add what we're...
What can I do on this iPad thingy?
Okay, so I have it in front of me now. The iPad starts at $329 for 32 gigs. The iPad Pro 9.7 starts at 32 gigs for $599. So it's like a $150 difference. And then the iPad Mini only has 128 and is $400.
But you can only get 32 gigs on the regular iPad.
No, it can go up to 128 too.
But that's... Come on now. Are you really going to...
I mean, it's like I said at the top of this little bit, right? Like, this iPad is meant for schools. It's the iPad that's going to get passed out in classrooms. I don't think this is like the bestseller iPad.
No, sorry. I'm glad I didn't say anything, but I'm going to right now because... Once again, I'm going to get on my soapbox and say it's Apple, screw you for only making an iPad Pro with 32 gigs on it being your base model. That's stupid.
I guess I'm just confused as to why it hurts to not have more storage in a product. Because you want to use iCloud? So you can pay for that, I think is what it is probably.
I mean, I think part of it, yeah, is that they want you to pay for more iCloud storage. But there's also, like... Those chips cost a little bit more, and in the grand scheme of things, they don't cost that much more. I'm with Sean. I think the iPad Pro should start at 64, and that
more than that. It should start at 128. It's bullshit.
Yeah, I guess it could do 128, 256, 512. That would probably make more sense, and then you would have a real difference between regular iPad and the Pro, because there's also a big storage jump. I mean, there's a jump in the internals as well. Like, I don't want to diminish that.
There's just, but I don't understand why there's an excuse here that like it costs you $100 more. I mean, 96 gigs when literally when I went to go back up my laptop, it was like a 64 gigabyte flash drive for $10.
Yeah, I mean that's the question, right? It's like how much more is it going to cost Apple in the long run to add all this storage? And I don't know what their margins are on these things. Nobody does, but I agree that I think the storage on the iPad line needs serious adjustment. But let's move on to perhaps the most interesting thing that Apple did this week. Did you guys see their new app, Clips, that's coming out later this month or next month or whenever? So Clips is a video app, and it basically does everything that Vine and Boomerang and Musical.ly do, but all folded into one app. So you can take 6-second looping videos. You can do like gift videos where it like shoots for a second and a half and it loops it. It has this new thing that's kind of like Musical.ly in reverse, where you can speak into the camera while you're recording a video and it creates live captions of what you're saying. And then of course you can like put fancy filters on your video and make them look like they came from Instagram.
Oh, I'm looking at it right now. All right.
I think this is cool. And it's going to be a free app that's available next month or early May.
It's not supposed to break your iPhone 6?
I mean, it shouldn't break your iPhone 6.
Oh, okay.
It says here, compatible with iPhone 5S or later.
Okay, so it's going to break your iPhone 5.
Yes.
All right.
I think this is cool.
Oh, I think it's cool too.
I'm excited to play with it.
I'm just ever looking for that software update that Mac is inevitably going to give you that makes your device right here completely obsolete and forces you to go get something new.
Well, it doesn't look like this is it, but unless you're an iPhone 5 user, in which case you probably need a new phone anyway. That phone's like 4 years old.
Which, when you say that out loud, it's like, it's not that old.
It's not that old, but in cell phones, it's old.
Not that old.
Right. It's like, hey, Grandpa, how you doing?
Hey there, kids. Want to use notes?
Oh, Grandpa.
What do you think of Clips, Tyler?
Hey, it's Instagram, right? It's Snapchat.
So that's the interesting thing about it. It can share out to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Vimeo. I think that's cool. I think it's nice that Apple is making this and not like Vine, because now you can shoot these videos and then put them wherever you want them. That's, I think, the winning feature of this. As long as the place you want to put them isn't Twitter, apparently.
I think any tool that enables you to do something, I think, is never inherently bad. Because, it's the same thing with, Vine was a source for creativity for people, even though it's sort of like, anything that has like a sort of like ready-made sort of feel to it, I think has its own sort of like usual limitations that you're going to have to act around. Like, kind of like being able to start and stop videos to do like editing tricks and stuff like that. And I think it's a smart tool for the 21st century, at least in the way that we consume. I don't want to be like memes, but that sort of like viral content that people really like to watch. That's usually just funny or stupid shit. I think it's very good for putting it onto like a bunch of different platforms that I feel like they're very comfortable with that format. I don't know if any of those are words. But
yeah, I think you're right. I think this is going to be a nice, like, easy meme style content creator. So because, good on Apple for that,
Yes. It's like, so you don't have to fucking buy like After Effects
just to like overlay text on a video. Yeah.
Right. Because really, I think Adobe's really dropping the ball where it's like, well, maybe they're not, but you know what I mean. Like, they're like, hey, you gotta pay for this every month, and it's gonna be not a small amount of money. And so people are just like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to make something that does exactly what I want it to do and not have to pay you $1 billion for it.
Yeah, this could have easily been a $5 app, but Apple's just going to give it to people for free because it drives more people to make stuff on the iPhone. And I think that's a great business move for them. Like, make the iPhone more of a creator's tool. Why not? Doesn't cost you anything. It still sells a shit ton of iPhones. In other follow-up, Ivan wants to know, are any of the dudes coming to Bunbury 2017? For those unfamiliar, Bunbury is the music festival in Cincinnati, Ohio that we did some coverage of in years past. Tyler, you're the only one who still lives there. You going to Bunbury?
Who's going to be there again?
I don't fucking know.
Let's take a look.
Is this the third? What year number is this?
This might be 5. Yeah, this might be the 5th year of the festival.
Okay, so we gotta wait till next year. Then they'll have good bands again.
Are you saying they only have good bands on even-numbered years?
Nope, every 3 years.
That's an interesting theory. I am not going to Bunbury, obviously, because I live way down in Atlanta now, but I am going to Shaky Knees, which is kind of like the Atlanta Bunbury. I'm only going to one day, though, because I don't have the endurance for a 3-day festival or the money.
Nope, screw you, Bunbury. I will never forgive you. You are the worst festival that ever existed.
I don't know if that's what they are, but...
Yeah, I think Woodstock 99 holds that title.
I don't know. I'd rather go see a high school talent show than go see Bunbury.
That's... All right.
Harsh words from Sean.
All right, so let's take a look at what's on the top of the list. We got Muse, we got Space Nectar, Pretty Lights, Death Cab for Cutie, AFI, Flogging Molly...
Well, if Flogging Molly is like the 6th band on the list, I'm out.
Well, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's on the 3rd row.
Oh, okay, it's on the 3rd row. I was gonna say, if Flogging Molly is like your 2nd row of the festival lineup, I'm like, I don't know.
No, the top of the list is Muse, Wiz Khalifa, G-Eazy, Bass Nectar, and Pretty Lights. So, which are...
I mean, those are biggish names. That's fine. Sure. It's a good festival circuit lineup. Yeah, even if I lived in Cincinnati, I don't think I would go.
It's definitely a good sort of representation, I think, of what people in Cincinnati are generally like identifying with, which are pretty like mainstream, like sort of like alternative rock bands. General like also sort of like the mainstream like rap scene, and then sort of like sprinkled in there is some like occasional pop punk, some like EDM. Electronica.
See, that's why this festival is crap. Another reason is that they just God, I don't even want to say it.
Well, then let's move on.
They'll just put on whoever they want. It's like listening to easy listen rock radio. Like it's just they don't.
You mean WEBN?
No, that's just AC/DC 24/7 all the time. Yeah!
So, this is the part where if you haven't seen Get Out, you should stop listening to the podcast because
Or you should, because spoilers don't matter.
Well, if you're the kind of person who does not want spoilers for Get Out, you should stop now and come back to this episode later. But if you don't care, or if you've already seen the movie, we're going to talk about it now. Let me just start this conversation by saying that I was super salty last week about this movie. I felt like I didn't really understand why Sean wanted to talk about it, and I just didn't get it. And I apologize, because I saw this movie yesterday, and I am 100% on board with this topic.
Tyler, how do you, in relation to last week, how do you feel?
I think I was pretty reasonably on board with the idea of it. And Catherine was skeptical of us talking about it, mostly because we're three white guys. But I think I definitely have some interesting things to talk about that's not necessarily going to take it into a place we don't really need to take it on this podcast.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of, I don't know. So sometimes when I hear like that, as three white guys, we can't have dialogue about stuff. I think like, okay, well, I think that's kind of wrong. Like, I think we can definitely have dialogue about it. I think if you watch the movie, you should be having dialogue about it. I think that's the whole point of the movie. Whatever, that's a different point. I don't think we should come at it as if we were experts about this. That's for sure.
Sure.
All right, so I'll watch my first question. Horror or thriller?
Boy, not up until like the last fourth of movie, I was like, yeah, this is a thriller movie. And then I feel like we all know what we're talking about. At some point it gets to be in that dark place and you're like, oh God, this movie has taken quite a turn, hasn't it?
What happened to this small country town that we thought that we knew and loved?
Right. Which I guess because we're not really worried about spoilers, but it was like, I was under the impression that like, oh, they're just crazy white people, and he was going to get out with his girlfriend and everything was going to be okay after maybe some minor altercations. But no. Oh, no.
Okay, so what was the moment for you that it went off the rails? And then I'll share mine.
Yeah. When did it leave Meet the Parents and turn into Get Out?
I mean, it was definitely the exact, like, I mean, this is like, we're talking about like almost near the end of this fucking movie where it's like he finds the box of pictures.
Oh God,
like,
I got it way before that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the moment where I was like, oh, this movie's, it's in a different place.
Oh.
Because you don't expect her to be against it because she works so hard to have your back, and you're like, fuck, no.
For me, I knew it was in a weird place during the first hypnotism scene and the scene where he sets off the camera flash and the guy wigs out. But the moment where the switch flipped was the little montage-y sequence where Chris and the girlfriend Rose are by the lake, and while they're there, all the white people are having the auction back at the house.
Yeah.
That's actually the moment. I take that back.
That was the moment where I was like, something really fucked up is about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So now that we've I guess, Sean, share yours, and then maybe we can back up and walk through this movie, because I feel like we just jumped to the end and haven't really discussed the beginning of it.
No, yeah. I'm trying to think where it was that it kind of got me. I was like, whoa. Maybe it was at the dinner party when Chris comes downstairs and everyone's touching him and talking about their own fetishisms.
I mean,
I think that kind of clued me in a little bit that this was that there was something that was and then when I thought back to when he first shows up at Rose's house and his dad comes out and he's like, we're huggers here. I was like, oh man, that set a dark tone from the beginning.
See, I thought that all that was just funny. I didn't.
Oh, it is, because it's awkward. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't connect those dots until later. So let's kind of back up a little bit and kind of approach this movie from a high level. One of the discussions that I had immediately following this movie with the people that I saw it with is, we talked about who felt uncomfortable being in the theater watching this movie. Because I didn't really feel uncomfortable laughing at any of these jokes, but my roommate and a couple of the other people I've talked to said they felt like they laughed, but it was kind of an uncomfortable, like, under their breath, I'm not sure if we're, as a society, we're supposed to be laughing at these jokes still type of situation.
I gotta say that, like, the whole movie was uncomfortable for me. I mean, it wasn't like, you're right. It's awkward because, like, the antagonists in the movie are white, right? And they're liberal white people, which is me. And like, so yeah, it was quite uncomfortable. Yeah, I think that answers your question without me going into deeper stuff. Yeah, it was quite uncomfortable. Like, it was a good check for me. Like, the whole time you're like, oh.
I don't think I found anything like any of the situation particularly uncomfortable, mostly because I don't know, maybe I just felt like, well, this isn't me. You know, like it's like super, like, it's not like stereotypical, but it is, but it's like oh god, like how do you, I don't know. I just didn't, nothing really made me feel at least that uncomfortable, like in regards to like the surrounding situation, I guess. I mean, obviously, like, I think the entire movie was uncomfortable because that wasn't in the intent, but like at no point was I like, oh, I shouldn't laugh at this, but I don't know.
I think the only moment where I felt uncomfortable is a moment that I think everyone is supposed to feel uncomfortable regardless of where they're coming from. And it's the scene at dinner where Rose's brother is like talking about MMA and tries to get up and put Chris in a headlock because he's drunk and being ridiculous. That part, I was like, looking back on it, I realized what it was. But at the time I was like, man, this is just really, really uncomfortable. And nobody laughed during that scene in my theater. I don't know if people laughed during that in yours.
No, there's a lot of gasping at that one. Are kind of like, ugh.
I don't think that joke really landed.
I don't think it was really supposed to be.
I don't think it was supposed to be a joke. I think it's supposed to be like a creepy moment.
Think?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a point that I want to make about this movie too. There's basically, from the moment they get to the house, because everything like in the apartment and on the road trip, including the dead deer and all that stuff, that is all pretty cut and dry. But as soon as you get to the house and you meet the parents and you start meeting the surrounding cast, it becomes harder and harder as the movie goes on to figure out what is a joke and what is a scary, uncomfortable situation. Is that how you guys felt about that?
Intent.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to go with Tyler there. I feel like that was the intent.
So were there any for you that you felt like maybe you read one way when it was intended to be read the other?
I don't really remember any lines that stuck out in my head.
Do you have one in particular, Taylor, that kind of like started off, if you have something?
Yeah, I think the one that really sticks out to me, and granted I just saw it yesterday, is the scene where he's in Rose's room and he's picking up his phone, and I can't remember her name, but the housekeeper comes in. Georgina comes in and like apologizes, and at first it seems really normal, and then like the other part of her brain kicks in and she starts saying no, and I was like, this is simultaneously funny and real fucking weird.
Oh wait, people laughed at that?
I think people,
when I saw it, no one laughed at that. Everyone was like, "Oh man, this is creepy."
Well, I think people started to laugh when he was like, "I just get real nervous when I'm around a bunch of white people."
Yeah, people laughed at that.
Yeah, people laughed, and then like a split second later, she starts wigging out, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is not the scene that I thought it was."
Mm-hmm. But I feel like there was moments like that where Jordan Peele wrote the movie that. Probably the most at the end of the movie when he's like, the car is flipped over and he had like just like Rose is laying there and she's been shot, and like Georgina is dead in the car, and what's the grandpa's name?
Logan.
Yeah, but Logan is laying there, and like you just see the lights pull up, and like immediately all I thought was like, oh my God, that's it. He's going to jail. Like they're gonna put him in jail. Like he's gonna be like put away in the system. This is it. Like it's over. I was like, oh man, don't end this movie like this. Like this is like,
I had the same thought.
I totally see where this is going. And then when
it turns out to be his friend Rod.
Right. When it ends up being Rod, I was like, oh great.
Oh yeah, everybody applauded in my theater when that happened.
Oh yeah, no, everybody applauded too. Right. Oh no, it was Walter. Walter was the name of the dad.
I think the whole point of that, I mean, and I think that was one of the parts that they wanted to change or thinking about having be different. I mean, like, you basically got the feeling of what would have happened, but simply by having a police car show up.
Mm-hmm.
Because we all know. We know.
Sean, is this where you said they changed the ending of the film?
Yeah, no. Okay, so when Jordan Peele wrote the movie, he actually had Chris get arrested, like by the police at the end, and then since of all those shootings and like stuff that happened in 2016, he switched it at the end to the alternate ending where it ended up being Rod.
And I think just like I said, so fine, you know, like we know what would have happened. It would have been a very sad ending, but like just the see and to feel a good ending for something like that was like great. You know, like I think we really needed that at the end of that movie.
But I think that's why it felt so good though, was because like the three of us, at least me, I saw those lights and I was pretty sure what was going to happen.
Absolutely, I thought so too.
Like I was pretty sure that, oh my God, this is like insult to injury right here.
Right.
Business as about usual. To go down.
Yeah, like, great. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked around the twist this whole time. But there's this, like, I think the climax of this movie is artfully done. You know, he kind of gets this idea of how he's going to escape, where he's trapped in the basement being hypnotized, and they're getting ready to transplant his brain into the blind guy. And
they're getting ready to transplant the blind guy's brain into him.
Oh, yeah. I misspoke. I'm sorry. And so, you know, you're like, oh, shit, this is like totally fucked up. And it's going to this whole different place. And the only person he thought he could trust is going to like fuck him over. And I thought that was super powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the carnage where he breaks out and kills almost everyone in the house, which that was fun. You know, it was cathartic. It was interesting. And they did it in such a way that it didn't feel like a bloodbath. Like there was actually suspense to it, and you didn't know if he was going to make it out of the house. And he makes it out of the house, and I love the line where he picks up Georgina because he's afraid she's dying, and as she crashes the car, she yells, "You destroyed my house." And that's the moment where they really reveal that that's actually the grandmother of all of these characters. Just inside that woman's body.
Once the crash happens, that's what I didn't get the whole. So in the beginning scene, when he goes outside to have a cigarette and he runs into Walter, and Walter's like does the whole like get out,
the sprinting, that we talked about last week,
which we talked about the get out challenge. And you look at Georgina and she's up in the bedroom and she's like fidgeting with her hair.
Mm-hmm.
I finally got that. Like, I finally got why that scene was like so significant. Because when I first watched it, I was like, okay, we're just watching this creepy scene of like almost like semi-voyeuristic of Chris looking into a woman's window, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like then you realize that like she's trying to cover up the scar.
Yeah, she's trying to cover it up with her wig.
Right. Or not with her wig, with her hair. Like, it's just trying to go with her hair.
Yeah, I think all of that, like all of the stuff with Georgina and like they just play that so well to the point where they had to literally say, like, I think Rose calls her grandma, and I was like, oh my god, that is that woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's that woman inside that other woman's body. Like, they had to say it for me to get it, and that's awesome because they really executed that twist well.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the lesser twist that the other guy is the grandpa, which, you know, whatever.
Did you what was the reaction when Chris comes down the stairs and Rose's mom is standing right there in the psych room and the teacup is on the counter? What happened? What was it like in your theater?
Somebody right behind me was like, oh no, and then the glass breaks and like everybody cheered.
As soon as he came downstairs, like half the theater starts yelling, get the teacup, get the teacup. And I was like, oh, yeah, I was thinking it too. I was like, oh my god, get the teacup, get the teacup. I was just
This is another thing. Like, I cannot stress enough, if you're listening now and you haven't seen this movie, this is going to make no fucking sense to you. So let me, 5-sentence summary of this whole movie. Chris is a black dude. He goes to his white girlfriend's house. He meets her family. The mom is a hypnotherapist and the dad is a brain surgeon. Turns out that they've been putting white people's brains inside of black people's bodies, and they've been doing it by hypnotizing them using this teacup. And then the dad transplants their brains, and then the old white people get to live forever inside of other people's bodies. That's basically the premise of this movie. So now you know everything in case you haven't seen it, and we can keep going. Because I feel like there's this frame of reference thing there, right? Where you're like...
But I think it's important to know, too, that Chris is he's a photographer who's a very good photographer. And when
and there's a blind art dealer who wants his eyes.
Right, exactly. Who wants his eyes. And that's why he gets picked by Rose. Because there is that pivotal moment at the end of the movie when she's upstairs listening to her headphones and she types in NCAA athletes, because at the dinner party the guy was like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to play sports again or something like that? And like, that's who's next.
Oh, the golf pro who can't golf anymore.
Scene, I feel like that was what the bidding was on, was who was going to be the next person.
Oh, I think they were bidding on Chris because they have the picture of him up there.
No. I think they already knew who Chris was going to.
Maybe. So let's keep going with the ending though, because there's so much to unpack in this ending. So we revealed that Georgina's the grandmother and that Walter is the grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
And then Chris almost gets shot and he ends up shooting Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, he doesn't shoot Rose. Sorry. He flashes his camera on the grandpa, who then freaks out and shoots Rose and then shoots himself.
Right.
And Rose is going for the gun and you think, oh no, this is it. This is how it's going to happen. And then the cop car pulls up and you're like, oh no, he's going to prison. This is the end of the movie. And then it turns out to be Rod, and Rose just dies in the street, which is the culmination of this long running bit of like Chris's mom died in the street and he let it happen by not going to look for her. He also only picks Georgina up earlier in the climax because he left his mom in the street to die, and he doesn't want to leave Georgina in the street to die because she's somebody deep down that like isn't a crazy racist murderer. And I thought, like, man, there are just so many like well thought out like
I never read any of that
in this climax.
I didn't read that closed loop.
Oh yeah, Chris's whole backstory is like a Chekhov's gun situation, because you have 3 different references to he watched his mom die in the street, or he was responsible for his mom dying in the street. Excuse me. You have at least 2 references to I could have called 911, but I just sat there and watched TV.
Mm-hmm.
Because they literally chain him up and just make him watch TV for a long time. Like, he is just, his whole backstory is set up to make this happen, including every single time towards the beginning of the movie that Rod's like, I don't think you should go up there, man. White people, they like turn people into sex slaves and stuff. which is literally what happens in this movie.
And then when he gets in the cop car and Rod's like, I told you not to go up here.
Right. That's my favorite part of the ending, honestly.
Which
it's
just like breaks does a good job of breaking the tension
hard.
there.
Yeah, you've worked so hard to get through the end of this movie. It's been so violent and gory and ridiculous. And then Rod gets the last laugh and the movie ends. Like, well done. I understand it was an alternate ending, but it was perfect.
How did you find me? He's like, I work for the TSA. Or the part when he goes to the police, when Rod goes to the police station and he's standing in front of the detectives, and he's like, oh yeah, and this guy's missing, and my friend Rod's missing, and they're all like laughing at him, like they don't believe he's true.
Like, just imagine if that movie ended and like he actually just got taken to jail instead. Like, what would have even been the point of Rod's character even existing if it didn't have like that kind of like meaningful like kind of conclusion to it? I feel like it tied everything up really nicely.
Well, and that was my thought, is like when they do the scene where Rod calls Rose because he realizes now that like they've abducted his friend.
Right.
And she does the whole, oh, you're just coming on to me. You just have always wanted me from the beginning. I was like, oh, so they're just going to go back into the city and kill Rod, and he's the only loose end. Like, I thought that was going to be the end of Rod.
I never read that far into it.
Yeah, I figured they'd just send little brother in there to, like, jujitsu him to death or something.
That's a good point. Well, I didn't realize until after the movie that the helmet in the passenger seat of the Porsche was the helmet that they used to kidnap. Oh man,
Kidnap Dre at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah,
in the kind of prologue.
Right. Which was a freaky scene that kind of set the tone.
Perfect tone setter for this movie. Yeah.
It was that scene was particularly interesting. I feel like, because it was like it's like the role reversal where, like, you know, you're so used to seeing in films portrayed as white people going through a bad neighborhood, and you're like, oh man, something's about to go down. But now you see like a black guy inside of a white suburbia, and he's like really nervous, and like it. And I sympathize with him. I was like, oh my God, like, oh man, like I could totally see why this might be like a nightmare situation.
And because it's Jordan Peele, there are a lot of really good, like, societal jokes there that aren't necessarily race jokes, but they become kind of a part of that general, like, same discussion, right? So there's the great moment where he's on the phone and he's like looking at the street signs and he's like, man, why the fuck is like Lakeview not next to a lake? Or like, he says something like that. And I'm like, but really though, like, why do we make suburbs like this where none of the roads go in straight lines and they all have dumbass names that don't make any sense? Like, that's such a white people thing to do. And he's like just doing all of these like subtle reminders of like, this is the kind of movie you're watching, right? Like, this is going to be a very far-reaching societal discussion. Mm-hmm. This isn't just a horror movie.
What was it like after you watched the movie when you walked out of the theater?
You know, I didn't really have that kind of experience that you had like a lot of people like actively talking about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really either. I went and then kind of talked about it afterwards, and then met up with some more friends later who had seen it earlier in the week, and we had like a larger discussion over dinner. Mm-hmm. But I think there was kind of this like, it was almost like when you're rubbernecking at an accident on the side of the highway. I feel like everybody like saw what they needed to see, and we were all just getting out of there. Everybody was kind of like talking quietly to the person that they came with, and there was no like larger discussion.
There was immediately strangers talking to strangers after this movie at the theater. Like, when I left the theater, there's probably like 10 of us that were in like earshot of the guy that was in front of me, and he was like, man, I think I'm scared of white people now. And like and like that's what I mean. Like I've never been to a movie where I've seen people who don't know each other, presumably, I would presume don't know one another, have just been talking about like race just right off the bat, like, which I feel like is probably generally an uncomfortable thing to talk about with people that you don't know. Maybe for some people it isn't, but I feel like for me at least it is and can be. Just being real.
Yeah, I think that's a true testament to kind of the nature of this film, that it would be very, very hard to just watch this movie on your own. You know? Like, there are lots of movies where I feel like I could just put this on a Saturday when I'm like doing stuff around the house or whatever. I don't think I could watch this movie by myself and get as much out of it. And I definitely don't think I could watch it without like talking to somebody afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to, like, we needed to go out to dinner and talk to other people that had seen the movie and like have a larger discussion about it. And I think this podcast is kind of part of that too. And it's nice to see a movie nowadays that's not like fucking Transformers or Power Rangers, where like you walk out of it and it's immediately out of your brain. Like, I've been thinking about this movie for over a day now, and I just saw it. You know, like I saw it yesterday and I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah,
right, for sure.
All right, kids, it's time for Internet Garbage, and I've got a doozy this week. This comes to us direct from my roommate Brandon, who found this on Facebook. It's a little video called Hi Stranger, and as we do on Dude's Brunch, we're going to do a live watch, so we are going to watch the video together, and I'll react to it and then give you our thoughts after.
Oh, God, I saw this. Someone else looking at it. Great. My favorite part is that it starts to sound like a Windows startup sound at the very beginning.
I feel like this is like a seduction, like the art of the seduction by some like art school douche who's writing a script for The Bachelor.
I think it's called ASMR, John.
Oh my God, is he drawing something? Paint me like a French girl.
This is fucking weird. But it's also like, I've seen Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, so I mean, really.
Is this just like a compilation of texts that somebody sent to their like ex or something? All right, so let's just talk about this, because you don't want to talk about my internet garbage, which clearly is so much better than this.
So your reactions while you watch this, and I intentionally stayed out of it because I feel like your reactions were basically my reactions. I felt like when it first started, I was like, oh, this is kind of ASMR-y. And then it got a little strange where he showed you the tree, and I was kind of in the back of my head like, yeah, okay, I've seen Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Like, this can't be that weird. And then he says, I want to draw a picture of you. And there's like at least 20 seconds of him just drawing. And I was like, boy, this is really fucking uncomfortable. And then it ends on this surprisingly uplifting note. And I just felt like, okay, I mean, this was creepy. But this ended on such a nice positive note about sharing your love for someone, albeit through a weird claymation naked dude.
Like I said, it's clearly written as a script to The Bachelor by an art school douche.
That being said, Sean's dismissive commentary. It definitely, I mean, although I do agree somewhat with, I guess, with Sean's, what he's trying to say, I guess I'll
Thank you.
Try to articulate it in a different way that's hopefully slightly more meaningful. This feels like probably feels like someone started out as like a test for like a project they were doing in college. Now, to be that's where Sean's, but it's like, I think it was interesting. It sort of started off like that, and then these kind of like went off the rails, and these kind of they're just trying some different stuff. And I think they were like, well, as long as I'm doing this, maybe you gotta just throw some positivity in there. They kind of like just decided to sneak a little bit in there, and they just kind of just sent it out, and they're like, here, my child, just go out into the internet. If you get me internet virality, go right ahead. If it fades into obscurity, feel like it was sort of like not necessarily like intended for like a big like audience.
So I guess I wanted to like prolong this as long as I could, but I do want to speak to that a little bit. What we discovered about this video is that it's somebody's voice acting reel that they send out to try and get work as a voice actor. Does that help it at all?
Yeah.
I mean that's pretty cute because it's definitely I could definitely see how that would
like, get you a job.
Yeah, the different situations. Like I feel like he definitely tried to like paint different like things that might be happening to kind of like create variety. I don't know. Maybe that's why it's so sort of random.
I think this is like when you first watch it, you're like, this is just very odd, and then kind of knowing that you realize like, oh, this is a character that like they're trying very hard to put on a character voice, which then when you kind of think back on it, you're like, oh man, that totally explains a lot of this. Like the point where it's just like, everything's so inspiring. Look at that sunset. And it just like shows you a sunset for no good reason. I'm like, yeah, okay, this makes more sense now. There's still elements of it that are like needlessly creepy though, which is kind of why I love it. What parts of it, like what was the moment where you realized this was going to be kind of one of those creepy, weird shitposty things?
Immediately.
The thumbnail image does a pretty good job of that.
I mean, definitely. Hey, it's okay to look at my butt.
That was.
I was already doing it, so it was fine. Like
that was the moment where the first time watching this video, I was like, Sean needs to see this. This is a Sean joke.
For the record, this Kristen Lepore made the claymation of this. Is a super talented animator.
Oh yeah, the animation is excellent as well.
No, just go watch into the other videos on here. It's amazing.
Oh wow, these are really good. Oh, I just realized she did my favorite guest animator episode of Adventure Time.
That's what I'm watching right now. So good.
So let's talk about that then. Does it cross the line from internet garbage to internet gold when you kind of realize the craftsmanship that goes into it?
But just the craftsmanship, not the voice.
You think the voice is still solid shitposty internet garbage?
Yes.
Well, I think that's also the intent, I think.
I think both the voice and the animation kind of straddle that line. I think this was intended, like Sean said, to kind of go viral as a piece of internet garbage and then like point back to the work, you know?
Because I feel like when I look at the animation, I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, this is good. But then when I listen to the voice, I'm like, this is like that scene from Arrested Development where Tobias is like, always make sure to put glitter inside of the envelope. And maybe he's like, producers hate that. Why would you? Don't do that.
So you're saying that if you were trying to cast an animated film and you got this, you would be immediately like, no?
Yeah, I would say no.
I don't know if that's true.
Show me your range.
I mean, they have a
I don't want to hear your ASMR impression or your NPR voice.
But if you look at like her actual reel, you're like, oh, look at all this nice varied stuff.
Well, she didn't do the voice. Somebody else did the voice.
Right.
Right. That's what I mean. It's different. Animation, primo. Voice.
I do appreciate the comments where people are saying things like, this reminds me so much of Salad Fingers, but the nice, cute version.
Well, I mean, I guess that does make it more palatable, doesn't it?
Yeah. Or highlight of my day, smiley face. It's the first piece that we've covered on Internet Garbage here where I feel like it's genuinely uplifting in a weird way, you know? It's kind of like, I love you, and you're valuable, and you're important, and that's a nice twist at the end.
In the same way that Get Out is both humorous and also incredibly scary, this is both uplifting and incredibly
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's why I felt like it was a good palate cleanser after our discussion of Get Out. It's just like the exact inverse. Yeah, it's like the inverse of Get Out.
No, you know what's really uplifting?
What, Sean? What's really uplifting?
Truck?
This link with this video.
Truck's Fates
is really uplifting. This is amazing. This just shows you that anything is possible.
Can you paint a word picture for our listeners?
Have you watched it?
I'm watching it now, yeah.
First ever.
As soon as when I was watching this, I was like, oh man, it's just a dumb monster truck. I've seen monster trucks do dumb stuff, but I didn't expect a monster truck, which is literally almost like 15 feet tall, to do a front flip.
It is really impressive to see a truck that big do a flip. I'm not going to lie.
No, a front flip.
Yeah.
Backflips, they've been doing this stuff for years now, but a front flip.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty crazy.
I'm not going to let you kill my internet garbage the same way that I killed yours.
Please explain to me why this doesn't deserve to get shunned.
Because it's a monster truck doing a front flip.
Exactly. You summed up the whole video in like less than a sentence.
Thank you.
That doesn't make for good podcasting, though.
Oh my god.
The fuck are we supposed to talk about? Like, yeah, it's a big ass truck. It did some flips.
Everybody who listens to this, get on Twitter this week, watch both of our videos, and then we'll have a poll and tell us. We'll put it in the subreddit. We'll decide whose internet garbage video is better, monster truck front flip or Hi Stranger. You decide.
Okay. All right. So what are the stakes here, Sean? What are the stakes?
Winner buys the other one a 6-pack
and ships it to them.
Yes, of a local beer from their town. All
right, I'm down for this. We will build a Twitter poll on the Dudes Brunch account and share it on the subreddit and the Facebook page.
It needs to go for a month.
We
got to give people time to listen to this.
Oh, I guess that's true.
That's so long. That's like 4 whole episodes.
I'm doing a huge GOTV campaign for this.
I was gonna say, you're gonna like game the system on this. I think neither of us are allowed to post in any way in support of our video. We got this segment on the show to make our arguments, and that's it. All right, it's on, people. You decide what is the garbagiest internet garbage, Hi Stranger or Monster Truck Front Flip. We eagerly await your opinions. Alright, it's time to end the show, and we're going to end it like we always do with a round of shameless plugs from everybody on the panel. Starting with Tyler Reed. Tyler, what you got for us?
Hey everybody, you can find my design and illustration work at tylerreed.com. You can also follow me on socials as TDR Design on Instagram and Twitter. Opening day issue of Intersekt Zine will be out soon. I drew an anime version of Mr. Redlegs, and I couldn't be more ashamed and also proud of myself for coming up with something so stupid. So I'll make sure you all see that when it comes out.
Sean, what do you have for us this week?
Check me out on Twitter and Snapchat at sEvans8910. That's Sevens8910. I'm going to try and write a new Rip comic this week, too. Had a lot of thinking time this past week, so I'm going to go for it.
And as usual from me, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TC Olmstead. And you can follow the show at Dudes Brunch or like us on Facebook or leave an iTunes review if you're into that. Thanks, everybody, and we will see you next week for more brunch.
Lick the frog.
That's right.